Hare Krishna. So we'll start the session by paying our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, who is founder Acharya of ISKCON, and we'll also seek blessings from our spiritual masters. We are on our journey to chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, right? So this is going to be our first session on the chapter 3. The chapter 3 is titled as Karma Yoga, right? So we have already explained you that the first 6 chapters basically fall under the category of Karma Yoga section of Bhagavad Gita, right? Primarily, they highlight the nuances related to Karma Yoga, which we can also call as Nishkam Karma Yoga. So in third chapter, we have total of 43 verses. And for the sake of convenience, we have divided this chapter into 5 sections. So today, Krishna willing, we will try to cover from verse number 1 to 9. Okay. So far, what has happened in second chapter, just to summarize a bit, that in second chapter, Arjun continued with his reasons for not fighting the war. Krishna said initially that, how come you can talk like this? This does not belong to you. You are a Kshatriya, right? How can you run away from your responsibility and duties? And then Arjuna said that how can I fight with my, guru and with my pitamaha and all that. And then Arjuna, having contemplated, he decided that I'm not able to make the correct decision. And then he surrendered onto Krishna, formally accepting Krishna as his guru, right? Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapanna. He surrendered onto Krishna. Because if you see otherwise, Krishna is Arjun's friend, his relative, right? His brother. And that is why so far the discussion which Krishna and Arjuna might be having was a friendly relation, friendly discussion. And when we want to discuss something like philosophy, it cannot be a friendly discussion, right? It has to be an intense discussion, which is why Arjuna decided to formally surrender onto Krishna as a disciple, right? And thereafter, Krishna starts his instructions. So Krishna talks about refuting his reasons of not fighting one after another, right? For compassion, Krishna says that, we are not this body, we are soul. Soul is eternal, cannot be killed, right? So he said, why you are showing compassion towards something which is, by default is not permanent and it has to go one day, right? Basically, this is Sankhya philosophy, right? Sankhya philosophy is trying to understand and do an analysis of what is material and spiritual, right? So Krishna spoke that from verse number 11 to 30th. And thereafter Krishna said that, anyway, you should do your responsibility because, if you win the battle, you will have the entire earthly kingdom to enjoy. And even if you die, you will go to Swarga, to heavenly planets, and there also you will enjoy. So he refuted his second reason for not fighting. And he said, then if you run away from here, people are going to make fun of you, right? Thereafter, now we all understand, we have gone through the yoga ladder. We all understand that Sakam Karma is not the highest of philosophy, right? So Krishna then himself refutes his own philosophy of Sakam Karma by saying that, Arjun, you should go beyond this, beyond happiness and sorrow, beyond loss and gain, beyond, victory and defeat. And you should fight as a matter of duty without having any attachment to the result of your action, right? That is basically what Krishna said from verse number 38 to 53. And then he said that if you will, do your duties, your responsibilities in that consciousness, then you can achieve, a stable state of samadhi, right? And then Arjuna asked him question that, how do people basically act, right? What are their symptoms? How do they respond to sense object? And how do they protect themselves from those sense objects? All those 4 questions he asked, right? And then Krishna said, and in explaining this, Krishna said that, you should know how to control the senses, and it is very difficult to control the senses whimsically. The best way to control the senses is to engage them in something higher. Param drishtva nivartate. Right? You have to engage them in the higher taste. Right? If the senses have a higher taste, then they will not be attracted to the lower taste. Right? And then towards the end, and then Krishna also explained all those verses that how a person falls down, right? 62, 63. And then in 66, he explained that, how by focusing our intelligence and mind towards devotional activities, toward Krishna consciousness activities, we can have stability, we can then have peace and happiness. So towards the end, Krishna spoke about peace, right? Now, Arjun got confused. At one point of time, Krishna is saying that, you should not do avaram karma. Durena hi avaram karma. In verse number 49, he says, right? And then Krishna also is, while defining the characters of Sthita Pratya, Krishna also talked that how one can achieve peace, right? So basically, if you see the translation of verse 49, says that keep all abominable activities far distant from by buddhi yoga. And in that consciousness, surrender unto the Lord, right? Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are priceless. So basically, when Krishna spoke this verse, Arjun understood it in a way that fighting is a avaram karma, right? And that he should not fight, right? And then when Krishna talked about peace, how we can achieve peace, he thought that how can we achieve peace by fighting? So basically in his mind, he thought that Krishna is hinting towards not fighting. At the same time, Krishna told that how can you be a Kshatriya? How can you speak like irresponsible, anarya? You understand your responsibility as a Kshatriya, so you should fight. So he was like confused, right? What should I do? What should I not do? And Arjuna thought that when Krishna is talking about, buddhi yoga and all these characteristic of sthit pragya, fixed intelligence, Krishna means that, we should not do all these abominable activities, right? So that is the base why Arjuna would ask these questions. The first 2 questions he asked in chapter 3. Okay? Now the title of this chapter is Karma Yoga, right? So the meaning of word karma primarily means action. Sometimes it can also mean reaction to the action, right? Fate or destiny. And in some rare contexts, it also mean fruitive actions, which are intended for a specific result, which is known as karma. Like if you remember, we talked about karma kanda, right? So in that, the karma means fruitive action. When we are talking karma, primarily it means any action. Karma, so karma kanda is action with attachment. Karma yoga is what we call as Nishkam Karma Yoga is action without attachment. At times, it also means reaction. Okay. Now, the flow of discussion of this chapter is something like this, that Arjun starts by putting forward his confusion, that what will be better for me? Should I fight or should I renounce? And then Krishna says that for you, Arjun, it is better you perform your prescribed duties. You cannot renounce. It will be an artificial renunciation for you, right? And one should, even if you think that you are not fit for Nishkam Karma Yoga, then do the work, do the fighting, thinking that you will win, like being attached to the result, and gradually progress towards the Nishkam Karma Yoga from Karma Kanda, right? So he first said you cannot renounce, because for renunciation you need purification, right? So you cannot renounce whimsically. You cannot just renounce saying that I'm fed up of things and I just want to go to the forest. That will not work for you, right? And he says that even if you think that you are purified enough, then also you should do your work, your prescribed responsibility, just to show examples to people at large, right? So perform Nishkam Karma Yoga as an exemplary act. And then he would give some examples of Janak Maharaj and himself. That, there were saintly kings in past who have achieved Krishna Prem just by performing their responsibilities and prescribed duties. Right? And then finally, Arjun will have confusion that there is one thing which hooks anyone when a person performs the karma, right? And what is that? Which is lust, kama. Kama eshe, krodha eshe, sama, rajoguna samudbhava. So Krishna will highlight that it is lust, which impels someone to do wrong activities. So that is where Krishna will try to explain that we have to try to control this enemy. Lust is our greatest enemy, which we should try to control. Okay. So this was the background. So now we go to the first section of the third chapter, which is Arjuna's confusion. Should I renounce or should I fight? Will someone like to read this?
Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhirjanadhana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava.
Right. Someone will read the translation.
O Janardhana, O Kesava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work?
Okay, thank you. So it is better, like if you don't mind, all of you can switch on your videos, right? If you are comfortable, that will help us to interact, right? So now, what is Arjun asking, right? We have discussed that Arjuna was confused, right? What do you want? What do you want to engage me in? Why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare? Ghore, karmani ghore ma. If you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work. Now, Krishna clearly said, right, about Buddhi Yoga. In Buddhi Yoga, Prabhupada has explained substantially in the purports of second chapter that Buddhi Yoga means Krishna consciousness. Right? So yes. Now, what does Buddhi Yoga mean? Buddhi Yoga explicitly, or I would say decisively, it means Bhakti Yoga, right? While in second chapter, when Krishna referred to Buddhi Yoga in verse number 2.39, Krishna was saying, so far I have explained you the knowledge of Sankhya. Now I am going to explain you how, if you use this Buddhi Yoga, the intelligence, performing your actions, you will not be bound by the result of your actions. So he said, you use the intelligence performing your actions. And this will help you not to be bound to the result of the actions, right? So Krishna basically said that if you work in Krishna consciousness, if you work with the right consciousness, then you will not be bound by the result of the action, right? Now, unfortunately, Arjun thought that intelligence, progression of intelligence in spiritual life or Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness means inactivity. He got confused that any advancement of spiritual life means inactivity, that we should not perform any actions, which was not the intent of Krishna. Krishna never said that, right? And we see the two sides, like, see, there is Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is Buddhi Yoga, right? And on one side of Nishkam Karma Yoga, Krishna explained Gyan, right? On the other side, Krishna explained about the characteristics of Sthita Pragya, right? Now, we have to perform our action with intelligence. Intelligence of what? That we are not this body. If we perform any action realizing the fact that we are not this body and we are the spirit soul, then that action will be on the level of spirituality in Krishna consciousness, right? At the same time, if we perform any action with this basic understanding, then undoubtedly we will not be attached to the result, right? Karmanne vadika raste. In Karmanne vadika raste, Krishna explains that you should perform as a duty, not getting attached to the result. And you should not be attached to inactivity also. Krishna clearly said, right? So he basically is talking that Nishkam Karma Yogi can work with intelligence, with Buddhi Yoga, right? And then while performing his actions, he can be at the level of a Sthit Pragya, okay, which is a self-realized soul, okay? Right? Did you understand clearly? Any questions on this? Okay, so we will move on to the names of Krishna. Now, Arjuna denoted Krishna with two names, Keshava and Janardana, right? So Janardana means one who is object of entreaty for those desiring their ultimate benefit. Okay? So Janardana, basically, right? That you are my everything. And Keshava, now there is one, this meaning has been given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baldev Vidyabhushan, the two scholars. Baldev Vidyabhushan was the one who has written a commentary on Brahma Sutra, Vedanta Sutra for the Gaudiya Sampradaya, right? Which is known as Govinda Bhasya. He was a great scholar, both of them. And Keshava means Ke-Shava. So the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is source and controller of both Brahma and Shiva. Right? So Arjuna is saying, you are controller of these demigods. Why you are bothering me? Just give me a clear direction. What am I supposed to do? Right? Don't confuse me. It was Arjuna who got confused. It was not Krishna's intention to confuse Arjun, right? But what was the intention of Arjun? Arjun was always finding what he wanted to find. That I should renounce. He basically didn't want to fight. So that was his whole intention, to find out those words which were attracted to him and which were aligning with his thought, right? But he wanted to confirm because he very well knew that Krishna also told me that, how can you act like Anarya and, all these things. So he wanted to clarify those things, which is why he asked this question. Okay. So, yes, O Janardana, why do you want me to engage? Why do you want to engage me in this warfare? If you think intelligence. And then he said, I am bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. Okay, clearly tell me what am I supposed to, right? And thereafter, Krishna starts speaking. Now, if you remember from the yoga ladder, can someone tell me where we were in the yoga ladder in terms of, starting point? What were the rungs of yoga ladder?
Karma, Jnana, Dhyana, and Bhakti. We are in Karma.
And Karma Kanda was?
Karma Kanda a little below Karma Yoga.
Right?
I mean, that is with free foods.
Right. And Karma Kandi are people, who follow Vedic rules and regulations for sense gratification. And sometimes we also divide, because you people, we are studying it thoroughly. So I want you to have a very clear understanding that sometimes we also divide Karma Yoga into two: Sakam Karma and Nishkam. Sakam means yoga. Anywhere where there is yoga means transcendental, absolute truth. It may be Brahman, it may be Paramatma, or it may be Bhagwan, but it is anything which is related to transcendence, absolute truth, right? So Nishkam and Sakam Karma Yoga. So Sakam Karmi, what they do? Sakam Karma Yogi, what they go to Krishna. Yeah. So we see in our Braj, many people, they perform Govardhan Giraj Parikrama because they want some material benefit, right? So they are Sakam Karmis because they are not going to any demigods, right? They are going to Krishna for their fulfilling their material desires, right? So that is, and we will see, in following chapters, Krishna will say there are 4 types of people who come to me, 4 types of pious people: Arthi, Artharthi, Jigyasu, and Jnani. And he says they are pious people. So anyone who is going to Krishna for anything is considered pious. Why? Because Krishna will take charge. If for example, Hasini goes to Shanmukji, right, for anything, maybe let it be anything. I want a cycle, I want a chocolate, I want this and that. Shanmukji will take care. Shanmukji will only give things which are of help to Hasini, with which she will not be put at any risk, right, or any health problem or anything. So that, but if by chance Hasini goes to, her neighbor or any other, her friend, then they will think, okay, Hasini is asking, let's buy a chocolate or ice cream or something, So sometimes grandparents are also very soft-hearted. They can also. So they are compared with demigods, right? So which is why we call them Karmkandi, because demigods, they can give anything without considering the fact that the benediction can be harmful for the person. While Krishna will take care. Krishna will not give us anything which will be harmful, which can be in any way harmful to us. That is why it is always better to approach Krishna, whether for going to home, Golok Vrindavan, or whether for any material comfort. Okay. So that is why it is difference between Sakam Karma Yoga and Nishkam Karma. Nishkam Karma Yogi, they are not attached to the fruits of their action. They are just attached to doing the karma. Okay. So here it will be explained that Nishkam. Lavanya ji, you have a question? I think so by Nishta. So for Arjun, it is better to perform Nishkam karma. Right? So we move on to 3.3. Someone will read this. Maybe Padmaji can read.
Sir, I can read the English version.
Okay. So you can read the English, then we will read the Sanskrit.
Yes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical, philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service.
Right. So who will read the Sanskrit?
Okay, Prabhuji, I will read. Lokesmin dvividha nishta pura prokta maya nagha jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam.
Thank you, Rakesh. So this is an important verse where Krishna is saying that Arjuna, I have already explained you that there are two type of people. There are two type of people who have this nistha. Dvida nistha, right? Pura prokta. Pura means before, previously, and prokta, this prokta word will very common. It means I spoke prokta. Maya anaga. Anaga means sinless Arjuna. Maya means I spoke this. Dhyana yogena samkhya. Right, like I explained the Jnana Yoga philosophy, which people try to understand by analysis, right? Philosophical contemplation, speculation, right? And there are other type of people who understand it by Karma Yoga, which is Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is Buddhi Yoga, Krishna consciousness, or devotional service, right? Now, why? What is the importance of these two? Last time we discussed in brief, right? Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam and Karma Yogena Yogina. Now, in purports, Prabhupada has explained what we just discussed, that in 2.39, Krishna clearly said. So far, I've explained you about Jnana Yoga, and now I'm going to explain you how you can use your intelligence, right, for performing your activity, and by which you will not have any, you will not incur any sins, right? So Krishna basically said that if you work with abiding with the principles of Buddhi Yoga, right, or Krishna consciousness, you will be not bound by any action. Right? And same principle, Prabhupada highlights that same principle is very explicitly explained in 2.61, where Krishna says that if you focus all your senses on me, matpara, then you will not be bound. You will not be bound. Shanmugji, can you recite that verse?
Hare Krishna. Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vasehi yashyendriyani tasya prajna pratisthita.
Thank you very much. Tani pani sayyamya. Tani sarvani. All your senses focus on me. Tani sarvani sayyamya. You will sayyam. You will be able to control them. Tani sarvani yukta asita. Yukta means connection. Asita means how you can control. Matpara. Yukta asita matpara. If you focus them on me, you will be able to control. So first was we was what?
Control.
Control. And then was concentration. On whom? Krishna. Krishna. And then yukta asita matpara. Tani sarvani yukta asita.
Conquest.
Right. So What was the third line?
Conquest. Vashehi yasyendriya.
Vash mein. We speak in Hindi also. Isko vash mein kar liya, right? Vashehi indriya. That full control. You know, they are in full control. How will they be in full control? After you do matpara. Yukta, you connect everything to Krishna, and then you will be able to conquer everything. You will be able to fully like control everything. You know, conquest is what we say. Yasya pragya pratisthita, and that is complement. This pragya will be very well settled, pratisthita, very established, well established, right? So then there is no, if someone works in that consciousness, there is, how can that person will be stuck to any sinful reaction, right? So Krishna very clearly explained this thing to Arjuna, right? That how by working in Buddhi Yoga, you know, you will be able to control things. Now, how these two yogas are interdependent. Prabhupada says the two yogas. Which are the two yogas?
Jnana Sankhya in that. Buddhi Sankhya.
Yeah. Basically, the two yogas which are interdependent are the Jnana Yoga, which is also known as Sankhya, and the Karma Yoga. Yeah. Right? Why are they interdependent?
Because you need to have the knowledge of that spirit, soul, and body in order to perform action in Karma Yoga. In order to work in Karma Yoga.
Right. Very.
One is philosophy, another one is religion.
Right. So, but if you have just one of them, for example, Jnana Yogis, you know, what do?
They are on their own and keep on hesitate their mind, speculating and understand the different. I think try to discern the matter from soul on their own efforts.
Right.
So
their own efforts, right? And they don't follow the principles of religiosity. You know, what are the principles like chanting, deity worship, and all these principles, right? They try to do things on their own independently. And many a time or most of the time without even having proper purification, which is the prerequisite of Jnana, right? But what happens is, if those people have philosophical understanding and they perform the activity, then not only will they be purified, but what will happen with purification, if they do the activities for Krishna, then they will achieve Golok Vrindavan. Right? Jnana Yogis, what happens? The path which is easier with Bhakti Yoga or Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness is Krishna is involved. Right? Tesham satata yukta nam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam enamam upayanti te. 10.10. Tesham satata yuktana. If those devotees who are satata, always engaged in connecting with me, bhajatam, they are engaged in devotional services, priti purvakam, lovingly. To them, I give the intelligence by which they come to me. Right? So that is an important understanding for all of us. That if we are engaged with some basic understanding of philosophy that we are not this body and we are soul, and we perform our activities for Krishna as per direction of Krishna or his representative, that is the spiritual master, then Krishna will take care. While Jnana Yogi, they depend on themselves. They don't have this hand of Krishna to protect and to, pick them up, which is why it becomes very difficult for them. For them, what happens is, Bahunam Janmanavante Jnanvan Mam Prapadante Vasudevam Sarvamiti Samatma Sudurlava. After many, many lifetimes, when they come to the conclusion that Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samatma Durlava, very rare. So Through Jnana Yoga, independently, the process is very long. While Buddhi Yoga, the process is very small. Right? So that is where, and they are, in a way, also Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, they are independent. So let's see furthermore how it is explained. Jnana and Karma Yoga are interdependent. They are rungs of the ladder with the ultimate goal to achieve love for Krishna. Someone will read this.
Jnana and Karma Yogas are independent, rungs of the ladder with ultimate goal to achieve love for Krishna. The philosophers, who are also sincerely searching after the absolute truth, come in the end to Krishna consciousness.
Right? For both of them, the ultimate goal is Krishna. Right? The philosopher means Jnana Yogi, who are also sincerely searching after the absolute truth, come in the end to Krishna consciousness. But the road is very long for them. Bahunam Janmam. Right? Religion without philosophy is sentiment, or sometimes fanatism, while philosophy without religion is mental speculation. So we have seen many a times, at our homes, or we might have seen friends and all, they are engaged in some type of so-called religiosity, but they don't have philosophical understanding why they are doing what they are doing, how it should be done. No clarity. They are doing it whimsical. And actually that happened in Krishna Leela also. When Nand Maharaj would collect all the Brajvasis and they will perform Indra Puja. And Krishna said, Krishna wanted to abolish all these demigod worship and all, right? Because he wanted to establish Sarv Dharman Parittaje Mam Ekam Sharnam Varga. He knew what he has to do. So he thought, let me start with this Indra. So he said, Papa, why you are worshipping Indra? Has it been mentioned somewhere in the Vedas, or you are doing it because your forefathers have been doing it? Nand Maharaj said, no, it is not mentioned in the Vedas. We are doing it because our forefathers have been doing it. So there is no authoritative, description. So he said, what's the use of doing? Better to worship Govardhan. Right? So that is known as religion without philosophy. Sentimentally, emotionally, they are doing it. Sometimes people get fanatic also about it. You know what's happening, in our Afghanistan, right? Fanatism, that only we are correct, and they will go to any extreme, So that is fanatism. That is, so no understanding of philosophy. What is the understanding? What do we mean by philosophical understanding? Philosophical understanding means that Jivere Sarup Hoye Nitya Krishna Das. And whatever activity we are doing, it is for pleasure of Krishna, right? And we have to do the activity as directed by Krishna or his representative, right? That is what Krishna wants, not all other things, right? If Krishna wants us to fight, then we will fight, right? If Krishna wants us to renounce, we will renounce. If Krishna wants us to work in a certain way, we will work. Whatever Krishna wants, we will dance as per the tune of Krishna, basically. While philosophy without religion is mental speculation. So what happened? Again, from Krishna Leela, Krishna was playing with his cowherd boys, and he had his calves also in Braj, right? And his friend said, we are very hungry. Krishna said, they were nearby village, the Brahmanas were doing yajna. So Krishna said, why don't you go and ask them some bhoga? They are doing this elaborate yajna. They have so many food stuff there. Ask them, tell them. Krishna Balram are asking. And he specifically said, tell Balram is asking. You know why? Because Balram, everyone knew, is the son of a Kshatriya. But people there didn't know that Krishna was son of Kshatriya. They thought Krishna was son of Nand Baba. And actually he was. So basically then he said, tell them. Balram is asking, if you take my name, they may not give. So they went, cowherd boys. The Brahmana said, no, we have not yet offered this. It is for yajna and all. They said, Yagyapati is standing there and you are not giving it. What is this yajna? Yagyapati is himself asking for the bhoga. They said, no, we'll not. Came back. Then Krishna said, you go to their wives. And their wives took all the bhoga. Not only they sent the bhoga, they themselves came, leaving their husbands. And they told Krishna, they fed Krishna and Balram. And they said, now we are not going to go back to our home. We want to stay with you. Now we have left our home and everything, our husbands and family members. So that is the difference between philosophy and pure love, Buddhi Yoga and philosophy. Philosophy means dry speculation without understanding the religion. What is religion means? Chanting, worshipping Krishna, doing something for pleasure of Krishna, like practicing those. Otherwise, you just live in dry philosophical speculation that, oh, that Veda is saying that thing. Let me do that yajna. Krishna already said in 2nd chapter, leave aside what is mentioned in the Vedas and all that. If you want my love, leave aside these things. Why? Why is that so? Why did Krishna say leave aside in the Vedas what is mentioned in the Vedas? Primarily, Vedas, see, I will explain you what these Vedas are. Shanmukh-ji, if we consider our Kirti Garden, Bangalore apartment, right? How many flats are there? 300 flats?
Yeah, 308, I think.
Okay, let's assume there are 1,000 people living, right? Of them, how many understands philosophy of Krishna consciousness, Bhagavad Gita? How many people?
Maybe 0.
Maybe, okay, you are very, very pessimistic, Shanmukh. Maybe 4 or 5 people. 4 or 5 people, we'll say. 5 people out of 1,000, you are IIT student. You tell me what is that percentage?
0.5,
huh?
No.
Anna?
Not, yeah. 0.0.
Yeah. Anna? So that is minimal percentage. And rest of these people are busy in what?
Sense gratification.
Material advancement. Sure. Right? Now, Shanmukh-ji, if you were given the responsibility to write the literature to help them to bring them to Krishna consciousness. For example, if they are smoking 20 cigarettes and you want them to stop, you will give a gradual pathway from 20 and to 5. So the Vedas are dealing with these 1,000 people of Kirti Garden. That is why most of things in the Vedas are for these 995 people who are doing Karma Kanda activities. Or not even Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda they are doing, we are thankful to them. But many of them, they are not even doing Karma Kanda activities. But finally, Karma Kanda or no Karma Kanda, they want material enjoyment. Bhog Aishwarya. Right? Which is why Vedas primarily deal with Karma Kanda because they want to gradually purify these people. You know, even if they follow Vedas in that way, they will be purified. Somehow they will get attached and they will get knowledge that Ganesh ji is doing this. What does he do? You know, by chance, if they are at least connected to Ganesh ji somehow, then they will try to understand what does Ganesh ji do, what has he written. If they try to read what Bhagavad Gita is there, what is there, you know, they will get purification, advancement, knowledge, and love, right? That is why if you are only, but unfortunately, if pure devotees, if people want to go back to Golok Vrindavan, they should have clarity. Clarity of what? Vedescha sarve aham eva vedyo. The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna, not to do some karma-kandic activities, right? Not to do this, but the aim is to go back to Golok Vrindavan, to Vaikuntha Lok, not to get hooked here. Which is why people who are just hooked to dry philosophy of Vedas, they cannot do anything. They cannot do any good to themselves. It's just little good, but not the ultimate good. That is the problem. That is why philosophy without religion, without practicing the spiritual life of chanting, deity worship, Tulsi worship, and all these is of no use, right? That is very important. Now, someone will read this. Maybe Harshad. Harshad, welcome to our session.
Hi, Sumit. Yeah.
Yeah, please read this.
Material science is experimental, while spiritual science is experiential.
What do you mean?
So with the spiritual science, one has to experience that, whereas material science is based on some sort of experiment, and the results of the experiments may differ at different places. So we can always, get different results from the material science.
So what you and I are doing in research, all this is experiment.
And also it has limitations.
Yeah, our senses are so limited. So definitely, it will definitely have some sort of, limitations.
Sometimes we are in clinical research, pharmaceutical.
Yes.
So we bring the drug in the market, and after bringing the drug in market, we realize, oh, this is causing cancer, this is causing liver failure and all, and then we withdraw the drug. It is not absolute, right? While the spiritual science is experiential, and I will explain you how it is experiential. Read.
With both philosophy and religion, spirituality becomes higher transformation science.
Becomes transformation. How come it is transformation?
Higher as it deals with things beyond material world, like soul and consciousness, etc. Transformational as it involves inner transformation of heart and experience of higher reality.
Right. Now let's see this. What is this? Science. Science involves theory.
Theory and experiment, yeah.
What do you mean by theory? Theory means they will try to come up with an explanation of any observation. Right? They will explain if an apple has fallen, then why is apple not going up? Why it is falling down? Most of the people will be just worried about eating. It has fallen, let's eat. No theory, nothing. Just eat and enjoy. But our dear friend Newton was not only interested, he thought, why is it falling? Why it is not going up? Why not right direction, left direction, laterally or vertically up? Why it is only coming down? So then he would think about different explanation of the observation. What was the observation? That it was falling. So he will try to put some explanation, some theories. But how do we know that that explanation is correct or not? For that, we need experiment, right? For that, we need experiment. Experiment will confirm or disprove the theory, right? So, for example, this lab scientists will come up with some chemicals and all this, right? That it may work. They will do some initial testing also, experiments, it may work. But then we have to do human testing, right? Okay, it may be performing in your lab, but ultimately you are going to give these drugs to human beings, right? So we should perform some testing to the animals also, even before. So animal also, it is safe, it is effective. So then they will do it on human beings, right? So these are all experiments. First, they will observe, come up with a theory, which is known as protocol. And then they will, on the basis of a protocol, on an observation, on a theory, they will do an experiment, right? Then they come to an understanding thereafter, after doing this thing, right? Now, what is spirituality? Spirituality involves what? Philosophy. What does philosophy tell you? That you are not this body, you are soul. Why are you longing for immortality? Why? Why you are longing for happiness? Why you are always inquisitive about something, trying to understand knowledge? Why? Because something.
These are the...
Go ahead.
Sorry. I thought you were asking me. Yeah. So these are the characteristics of soul, like Satchidananda.
Characteristics of. So this is logical thinking, right? But how do we know if I'm correct in this thing? For that we need practice. Philosophy is there. Now to understand the practice. What is the practice? Practice is chanting, deity worship, doing some services, book distribution, cleaning of temple, serving devotees, prasadam. These are services. And if by religious practice, we see practically that my material desires are going away, I am experiencing peace, I am experiencing happiness, I am experiencing satisfaction, contentment, then that philosophy is substantiated and it proved. Right? So that is the relationship of philosophy and religion. More so, all this theory, experiment, and science is based on imperfect senses, as what Harshad and Shanmukh shared. Right? They are imperfect senses. Why? Shanmukh, if from by chance, when I was in E block, I used to see swimming pool from my flat. And there was a worker who used to clean that swimming pool, right? With a long stick, right? And when that stick goes in the water, what do we see? As if that stick is tilted. You see?
Yeah.
Why do we see? Because of the
refraction index.
Reflection index. But my eye thinks that it is bent while it is a straight stick. So my eyes is not perfect. Rajesh ji, can you see coronavirus with your eyes?
No, we can't.
We can't see. We cannot see everything. Can you see America from here?
No.
America exists, right? So our senses are not perfect. And then there is a tendency that there are three more defects, which we will not discuss, but we understand that all this science depends on imperfect senses, while spirituality depends on perfect senses. But philosophy needs to be substantiated by religion, and religion should have a philosophy. They both have to go hand in hand. That is the most important thing we have to understand. Right? Now, what is spiritual science? Who will say? Someone can read. My throat also get tired.
Spiritual science. Universality applicable everywhere across globe. People are practicing.
Spiritual
universality.
White people are practicing, black arts, and I think brown arts. Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Australian, Indian, American.
Philosophy.
We get by scripture.
Study scriptures.
Religion involves
chanting, deities, worshipping services.
What is sentimentalism?
Sentimentalism, some benefit but no conviction. Go to temple and feel peace, but if no philosophical understanding, as if they go to mool. They can feel God, they can feel good, but may not be the God. Okay. Anything lasting on just feeling will not last long.
For example, why you are going to temple? Because I feel peace, I feel calm. And there was a movie of Amitabh Bachchan released then tomorrow. And auntie went to the movie, Amitabh Bachchan movie. She felt very happy there, very happy. And then she realized, by seeing Krishna, I was not as happy as seeing Amitabh Bachchan acting. So this gives me more happiness. Right? And in temple, they gave me prasada, which was not tasty, the popcorns which were in the movie theater. They were very tasty. So she thought, why don't you go to temple? Better to go there. Then she was thinking, if I go to temple, I will get some material benefit. Krishna will bless me, give something. Then what happened? When she came back, she didn't get any material benefit. On the other hand, she spent money on petrol. The cost of petrol going up, she went to the temple, which was 100 kilometers, came back. So much energy, so much of money has gone, not earning anything. And then she thought, if my son will study hard, he will go and do job at which com? Qualcomm, and earn more money, right? So why to go to temple? Better my son should go to become a doctor or engineer or a scientist and earn money. So it is all on the basis of what their superficial understanding of what peace and happiness is, right? Without any philosophical understanding. They are only bothered with material comforts and all, and they are doing this sentiment. Fanatism is, we have very good example of fanatism with Afghanistan, right? That is not a problem.
Speculation. Anyone can come up with any theory. No way of evaluating and confirming. Religion brings out the transformation.
They will come up with their own theories. That is what we discussed last time. That if there is no judge, then all these advocates, they will come up with their own explanation of the constitution, right? That this should be, no, but judge is an intelligent person. He will take the decision. He knows the constitution better than these lawyers, right? So for us, who is the judge? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the Vedas Sarvem Aham Eva Vedo. He says, I am the writer, I am the compiler. I know I am in your height. I give you the knowledge and the forgetfulness. And from all these Vedas, I am to be known. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then gave us very clear understanding. He said, don't involve yourself in philosophical speculation. He told to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Prakashanand Saraswati that you people, what you are explaining, I don't understand. Vedas are crystal clear, but your explanation is all bogus, right? That is why we need someone like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? Or his representatives. That is where it is speculation. Prabhupada uses this word very frequently for Mayavadis, right? So, who will read this Sanskrit? Harshad will read. Shanmukhi will read.
I'll read. Hare Krishna. Na karmana manarambhan naishkarmyam purushosnute na cha sanyasana deva siddhim samadhigacchati.
Thank you, Shan. Translation?
Not by merely abstaining from work, one can achieve freedom from reaction. Nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection.
I'll move to the next slide to explain this. You will just understand by seeing the photograph on it. These are our frequent Babajis which we see. So, now what is Krishna saying to Arjuna?
I think without purification, with knowledge, and then follow the Buddhi Yoga, and you need to purify before you renounce. I think that's what he's saying.
Important point. The renounced order of life can be accepted when one has been purified by the discharge of prescribed duties, which are laid down by your spiritual master or Krishna. Whimsical renunciation is condemned, right? But according to some empirical philosophers, you know what is it? Whatever you are, you just adopt the danda, sannyas danda, and you are as good as Narayan. Have you heard?
Yes.
Just but take the danda, sannyas danda, wherever, whatever you are, and you become as good as Narayan. So that philosophy in this verse is not accepted by Krishna. Krishna is condemning the immature, premature renunciation, right? So why? Because the heart is not yet purified, right? So Lord Krishna does not approve this principle. Without purification, sannyas is simply a disturbance. It is a social disturbance. And renunciation is not equal to Narayan. It will never be equal to. We are always Nitya Sarup. What is the Nitya Sarup?
Jai Hare Sarup by Nitya Krishna Das.
Krishna Das.
Right? So, and this person is a pretender, wearing a garb of a devotee, but he is not a devotee, right? There are many such pretenders who refuse to work in Krishna consciousness, but they make the show of meditation, while in their heart, they want to enjoy the senses. Sometimes they may speak high philosophy, right? But they are greatest cheaters. So just by stopping your work, it does not mean that you will be free from the reaction. And by going, also by adapting the sannyas, renunciation, it does not mean that you become purified. Krishna is condemning it. Why? Who will read this?
Everyone is forced to.
Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment.
Anyone tell me what these kids are doing?
Some fun
activities. Sack race.
This is sack race.
Sack race.
So, Harshad, you are within the sack. How fast can you run? 100 meters in how many minutes you will cover with a sack?
Very slow. Very slow.
Very slow. If you are without sack, then how fast you can run faster, right?
Indeed, yeah.
This body is our sack. We are not very active. So, if in this body we always are trying to be active, then how can one think that out of this body we will not be active? We will be purely active in Golok Vrindavan by serving Krishna. So this is like a sack, and that is what Krishna is saying. Everyone will be forced to act helplessly according to the qualities it is now. What are the qualities? Tamogun, Rajogun, and Satogun. Right? So no one can refrain from doing something. Everyone will have to do something. So better is to do activities in Krishna consciousness. Action is very natural to us. Energy and action are intrinsic to the soul, right? But direction of those is determined by the modes of nature. And as I explained you, for our soul, this body is a burden, right? And the way we run in this sack, right? Similarly, we are limiting our capacity to run naturally, right? So when we are out of body, we are more active. It is not that we become inactive. First thing is this. And if you falsely sit, like some Mani Baba you must have seen in forest or in some pilgrimage places, they will not speak, but they will smoke, drink, ganja and all things, and they will do all this stuff, right? Not speaking is not enough. Krishna is saying, speak. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Krishna is not saying, not speak. Krishna is saying, control the senses by Param Drishtva Nivartate. Engaging the senses in higher taste. He is never saying. He is saying that you can never be inactive. He is condemning that. Okay? Someone will read.
One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender.
See, Krishna is saying mithyachari, pretender. someone who is artificially or just showing that I am restraining my senses, right? While inside he's contemplating on the sense object. He's a pretender, right? Mithyachari. So, external, outward garb of a devotee, and internal impure heart searching for objects for sense gratification. Did everyone understand this?
Yes. Artificially controlling the senses, but internally they'll be contemplating constantly on sense objects. So it's
outwardly they may be wearing sannyas cloth or dhoti kurta or tilak and everything internally. So there are 4 grades of people. Grade 1, complete transformation. Are you able to hear me? Am I lost?
audio is a little bit broken. Yeah, audio is broken.
I think we have lost him completely now.
Yeah, I think the internet connection is very stable here. Even mine is also.
Okay, so I have dialed in. I'm on my phone. So, are you able to hear me?
It's clear now.
Yes.
Okay, but you will not be able to see the screen, I think, so, right?
I can see.
Yeah. Sumitji, I think you should try without video, because the internet connection is stable, even unstable even for me. Yeah.
Okay.
The voice is not clear.
Hare Krishna.
Hi, Sumit. We can hear you.
Okay. So the only problem is that we will not be able to see the screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will try to connect again. But in the meantime, I'll keep explaining you. So grade 1 is a garb of a devotee externally, but complete transformation of heart, like a pure devotee. Grade 2, externally garb of a devotee, and they are sincerely attempting towards internal change, like maybe all of us, right? That we are trying our best. Now, grade 3 will be what? Can anyone tell me?
Garb of devotee. the Midyachara.
Regulative principles.
Right. Grade 3 is someone who is externally in a garb of a devotee. Who is in a garb of a devotee, but no internal change at all. But last, who is the last person? Is a fully Midyachari. He's a pretender. What? No, externally using the garb of a devotee and continue to do all the sinful activities, right? So that is a pretender, what Krishna is saying. Dr. Mamta, I think so. You are the host. Can you pass the host right to me? So that I can share my screen. Okay, so I'll share the screen. Are you all able to see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this we discussed.
But then I think you have to change the view, Prabhuji.
Okay, change the view. Okay.
No.
So this is basically a summary of these 4 verses. Okay, what we just went through. There are 2 paths. Then premature renunciation is condemned. Krishna is not. Krishna does not appreciate that. Inaction, he says, is unnatural, right? And then people who are externally changing the garb but internally doing the same activity, they are known as pretender. So Krishna is saying, Arjun, if you will go in the forest, you will ask for alms, you will beg. And if someone, they don't give you something, then you will take out your sword and kill them. So first purify. First a person should purify, right? And then they should do these things. Renunciation and all. Who will read this?
I will try.
Translation.
Yeah, anyone can try.
I can try, Sumit.
Yeah. So I'm putting on my video on my.
Yeah. Yastva indriyani manasa niyamyarabhate Arjuna karmendriyaiha karma yogam asaktaha sa vishishyate.
Translation.
Someone said
On
that
the other hand,
would read the translation.
sorry.
Please go ahead. Yeah, Lavanya, you can read.
On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior.
So, yassatva indriyani mansa niyama bhate Arjuna karmendriye karma yogam asakta sa vishishyate. Right? If a sincere person tries to control the active senses, how to control the active senses? By mind, manasa, and begins karma yoga without attachment, he is by far superior. So now Krishna is comparing that better than artificial renunciation, it is go and perform your duties in Krishna consciousness, right? Without attachment means asaktasha vishishyate, right? In Krishna consciousness, right? So let me first explain you the difference between Karma Indriya and Jnana Indriya. So Karma Indriya, the working senses, they are voice, legs, hands, anus, and genitals. They are working senses. The primary bondage occurs when we act using working senses. That is Karma Indriya. That will cause our bondage. But if we are involved in regulated sense engagement, right? What is regulated sense enjoyment? That is Karma Kanda. Understanding of philosophy is very important for controlling the Karma Indriya. Why? Because if you don't understand the philosophy, what will happen? Then, like this samosa, you will see samosa and you will like to eat it. You are not able to control your tongue. But if you know the philosophy that you should only eat something which is offered to Krishna, you should only eat prasad. You don't need to be vegetarian. You need to be prasaditarian, right? So it is not that you should take sanctioned food. You should take sanctified food, right? So that is important. That is Karma Indriya. What are Gyana Indriya? Eyes, ears, nose, tongue. People who practice passive meditation, their knowledge acquiring senses don't become inactive. They are not becoming inactive. These Gyana Indriyas. They are restrained, but they are not inactive. So contemplation will cause contamination, right? But bondage will not happen until unless you engage. But someone who is contemplating, his mind and intelligence is already contaminated by contemplation, then they will end up engaging. We saw in 2.62 and 2.63, right? Dhyayato Vishantamsam, Sangasteshu Pujayate, Sangas Sanjayate Kama, Kama Krodha Vijayate, Krodha Bhavati Samoha, Samoha Smriti Vibra, Smriti Vrimshat Buddhi Nasho, Buddhi Nashat Pranashyati. Fall down. It starts by Dhyayato, contemplation, right? We know that. So Krishna is saying, better than false renunciation, you should sincerely control the active senses by mind and begin Karma Yoga without attachment, right? So we have many examples of sincere people. They perform their prescribed duty and they work for the satisfaction of Vishnu, right? So here we are giving an example of Alfred Ford. Alfred Ford is a great grandson of our Ford, the founder of Ford car.
Henry Ford.
And Henry Ford. And he is a devotee of Krishna. You are seeing him, this same person, right? He's wearing this dhoti kurta, his wife. He's helping us build a very, very big temple in Mayapur. He's with Mamta Banerjee madam, right? This is Radharaman Prabhu. Radharaman Prabhu was the one who brought me to Krishna consciousness in Moscow. He's the one who helped me come out from the hell. He helped me a lot. So it is better to engage your active senses in Krishna's services rather than artificial renunciation, right? So perform your prescribed duty. For doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one physical body without working, right? So one should do your prescribed duty. And then Yajnat karmano anyat lokoyam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. Now, my dear friends, this is first time in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying that you should work for me. Yagnarth karmano anyat lokoyam karma bandhana. If you will not work for me, then you will be bound. Karma bandhan. You will be bound in karma bandhan. Tadartham karma konte. Do your work for me, for my satisfaction. In that way, you will never be attached to the result of the action. Right? You will always remain free from bondage. Right? Now, what do you mean by yagna? Yagnarth karmano anyat. Yagna. You should work for the sacrifice, for the pleasure of Vishnu. The translation is for Vishnu. Why? Why that word yagna has been translated? We will try to complete the session in 10 minutes. Can someone read?
Offering prescribed duties, dharma, to Lord Vishnu or Krishna without personal desire is called yajna or sacrifice.
Prescribed duty is dharma. And if you perform your prescribed duty for Krishna, then it becomes yagna. You know, sacrifice. Why? You see, you read Rajesh.
Vedas enjoin yajno vai Vishnu. In other words, the same purpose is served whether one performs prescribed yajnas or directly serves Lord Vishnu.
Right? So, yagno vai Vishnu. So, yagna is same as Lord Vishnu, same as serving Lord Vishnu. Tadartham karma konteya. Yagnyarth karmano anyatra. You have to do the work as a sacrifice for Lord Vishnu. You have to do the work for his pleasure. Right? Otherwise, the work will cause bondage. You will read.
Therefore, one has to work for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Any other work done in this material world will be a cause of bondage for both good and evil. For both good and evil, work have their reactions, and any reaction binds the performer.
Right. Whether it is good reaction, you will go to Swarga. Bad reaction, go to Naraka. Right? So we have to transcend this good and bad and go to Vaikuntha. Prescribed duties have to be performed. Right? Why? Because it will purify the heart. And when the heart is purified, the knowledge will be awakened. Right? So, read this.
Krishna thus suggested that working for the Lord without desire for results, Karma Yoga, is better for Arjuna. But if you are not free from desire for the results of action, then you should still perform actions with a desire, Karma Kanda, rather than giving up actions completely.
Right. So then, now Krishna will say, Arjun, for you, better than running away and, artificially renouncing, better to perform your duties. Right? And perform your duties is part of Nishkam Karma Yoga. Now, see how tactfully Krishna is bringing Arjun. Earlier when he was talking about Nishkam Karma Yoga, he didn't explicitly said, do it for me. But now, if you see in 3rd chapter, when Krishna is talking elaborately and more clearly about Nishkam Karma Yoga, he is referring to himself. Do your work for me as directed by me. Right? And then he will say, even if you think that you cannot do it as I'm telling, still you should do it with attachment rather than going to the forest. So the summary as it goes as follows. So a sincere person, we gave an example of Mr. Ford, Amrish Prabhu. Control senses, involve yourself in Karma Yoga without attachment. And prescribed duty, better to perform your duty than to do, right? Harshad, many a times we say, we as line managers find out what he can do, what is better, rather than do something which he can perform, rather than involving in other activities, right? So it is a thing already mentioned in Gita. No, better you do your activity correctly, rather than engaging in someone else's work, right? And then Most important 3.9. For the first time here, Krishna is bringing that himself do the work for him, right? For his satisfaction. So, liberation, someone will like to read this?
Liberation or bondage is not determined by one's activities, but by one's consciousness in performing those activities. Renunciation is not actually giving up action, but giving up attachment to the results of activities. Renunciation of activities without necessary knowledge and purification will lead to destruction on the path of spiritual advancement.
Right. These are very important things for all of us to understand in our own lives, you know. So it depends on our consciousness. We should be very clear about these things. And gradually, it is a gradual, advancement. And the gradual advancement starts with hearing. After hearing, what you do? You start chanting. You start reading, right? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Of this, chanting is the most important thing which is going to help you in your journey. That is why we always request you to focus on chanting the names of Krishna. More important than anything else in your life. More important than reading Gita. After reading Gita, what will you say? Bhagwan is saying everywhere, Satatam Kirtayanto Mam, Nityam, Sarvasha. Again and again he's saying, chant my glories, chant my names, right? And that is the Yuga Dharma, Yuga Harinam Sankirtan, right? So, and that will actually help us purify our heart, and then we will be able to understand what we are reading Gita, and Krishna will give, our understanding from within the heart. He says that in 10.11, Jnana Deepena Bhasvata. He says that I'm sitting within your heart and I will give you your heart, will be illuminated by the knowledge which I will give you from within the heart. Tadami Buddhi Yogam 10.10. Right? So it is important. Everything starts with chanting. Right? So we request all of you to please continue chanting. Right? Before chanting, we should chant the Panchatattva mantra. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita, Gadadhar, Shrivas, Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna. Now, do you have any questions? Does anyone have any questions?
Sumitji, I'll ask next week. So the 3.9 to 2.61, there 3.9, he has explicitly said, do your prescribed duties for me, for Vishnu. Mm-hmm. And then in 3.61, he said, concentrate on, engage your indriyas in my service, concentrate on me. So, is it not first, he has also indirectly said that in 2.61?
Yes, he has indirectly said, which is why if you see, Prabhupada always have already said in his purports and even in translation that Nishkam Karma Yoga, he's saying Bhakti Yoga, right? So yes, Krishna has said indirectly. For the first time, he's saying clearly, explicitly.
Yes.
Right. Yesterday, I was speaking to Shanmukhi and I gave him an example that if I'm a doctor, I will tell to one patient, you come and see the doctor in the hospital. Then I may also say, you come and see, the medical superintendent, right? And then I will say, you come and see me in the hospital, right? Dr. Sumit Goel. So once I'm saying you meet the doctor, you meet medical superintendent, and then I finally say you come and meet me. So param drishva nivardate, Krishna is saying, right? Then he's saying yagnat karmano anyat. Then finally he will say mai sarvani karmani, doing for me. When he says that matpara thing, he's saying for sense control primarily, right? That purify your senses. When you will later, when you will work with the purified senses, that was primarily for sense control. 2.61. With the purified senses, if you focus your senses on me, then you will be able to control them, right? But here it's about working, doing your activity. Krishna clearly says that you should do everything for him. As we progress in our journey of Bhagavad Gita, we'll see that. He will say, Man manabha mat bhakto madhyaji mam namasuru mame vaishyasi. Then he will say, if you cannot do pure devotional service, then yat karoshi, yat rasnasi, yat vigosi tarati, yat tapasya sikantiya, tat kurushva matarpanam. Then also he will say, right? Many times he will clearly say, do everything for me. And always, right? And everything starts with chant. Okay. Any other question or comment? This time is suitable for everyone, 11:30.